Hi. About a year ago, Endorphins and I launched +3, and I'm happy to say it was very well received, with 5-star customer reviews, except one with 3 stars, but they didn't return it, so if they're happy, I'm happy. And Emily Hopkins was nice enough to give us an S-tier rating.
It's $80 and it comes with cables?
Yeah.
S-tier. Easy S-tier.
Though I'm not sure how I feel about her using the mushroom keycap. Anyway, in the launch video, I covered over 20 ways to use it. I won't repeat those here, but in the time that has passed since then, both users and I have found even more creative use cases and tips for it, so I wanted to share those here. We also got quite a few requests to make a black version, so now this is a thing. And in this production run, we changed one small thing, which I'll also discuss in this video. Before I dive in, a quick disclosure, this video is sponsored by me. However, almost all the tips and ideas in these videos are applicable to foot expression pedals and foot switches. As a matter of fact, +3 isn't designed for use with feet at all, unless you're wearing socks. Before I get into the specific tips and ideas, in case you missed the original video, the idea behind +3 is to add 3 new controls to your synth or setup, with the goal of giving you hands-on control for hidden parameters or to unlock additional functionality. Beyond that, because it's analog, a side benefit is that you can use it to process CV or audio. On the left side, it has a continuous fader controller that connects to expression jacks using the included TRS cable, or using the included TRS to TSY splitter cable, it can be used as an attenuator for CV or audio. So this makes +3 somewhat of a gain changer, or at least gain reducer. The switch up front lets you choose TRS or RTS polarity for the fader side. Choose that based on your device. Then on the right side are the toggle switch and the momentary push button, which does the opposite of what this switch does momentarily. The main purpose for which this was designed was to connect to sustain jacks on synths or MIDI controllers, and you do that using the included TS cable. Now on the original silver +3, we also snuck in a little jumper on the PCB that gave you the option to make the right side behave like an RTS or TRS expression pedal. You can use this to quickly toggle expression values or as an audio kill switch using the Y cable. The slight change in the new black version, which we're calling Rev 1.1, is that you no longer need to open up +3 to access this functionality, and it's no longer a jumper. Rather, it's now a 3-way switch, which you access on the bottom of +3. Now it's a bit hidden inside so that you don't accidentally change it. You'll need a toothpick to change positions. Just insert it carefully, use the edge as leverage to move the switch from position to position. I know it's a bit hard to see on camera, so I took the enclosure off. You don't need to do this, of course. And this is the 3-way switch inside. The factory default is in the middle. That's the regular sustain mode. And then on either side is TRS or RTS, the polarity of your expression pedal, or pick either side to mute audio. Beside that, the new black and previous silver +3s are electronically identical. Okay, my first tip is pretty simple. There's a QR code printed on the bottom of every +3 linking to the manual. I know it seems kind of silly to have a manual for a 3-button device, but there are now over 30 use cases and tips for it in the manual. It's basically a summary of these videos and will include anything we discover beyond that. So perhaps have a look every now and then to see if there's anything new. Next tip, probably the number one question we got when +3 was first released, was how to use it alongside a foot-based foot switch. And the answer is easy. Get a mono or TS splitter adapter like this one. Then just plug this into your synth or MIDI controller, plug your sustain pedal into one input and +3 into the other, and they should work very nicely in parallel. If they don't, you might need to change +3's polarity or the polarity of the sustain pedal or your instruments. See a more detailed description in the manual. Note not to use a TRS-based splitter. These are less likely to work. The next surprising use for the right side of +3 we found, which I have to admit we didn't consider when making it, is as a controller for instruments and pedals that accept dual foot switches into a single TRS jack. So for example, UDO's Super 8 and Super Gemini have a delay freeze function that's only accessible using a dual foot switch. There's no button on the panel that lets you use this feature. Using +3, you can keep one of those 2 layers frozen based on the position of the internal jumper or the internal 3-way switch. And unlike regular foot switches, which are only momentary, with +3, you can latch, in this case hold a freeze, and then use the momentary toggle to release the freeze and play a new chord into the buffer. Don't forget to use a TRS cable for the right side of +3 when doing this. So that's just one synth. There are a whole bunch of pedals that support dual foot switches. L'instrument, for example, supports dual foot switches, so it's worth trying out if you've got one. Moving on, the next use case I found for +3 was as a feedback loop gain changer, or again, technically an attenuator or gain reducer. So now we've got the output going through an attenuator into the input. This works very nicely, for example, on the Mini Korg 700S or SM, and it totally changes its sound. The Mini Korg has an external input, so you can feed back its audio into its mixer, but it doesn't have an on-panel control for the external input level. Feeding its audio back through +3's expression side gave me precise control for how much craziness to apply to its sound, which is particularly important in light of its resonating spring reverb. By the way, a quick tip about feedback: explore filtering in the feedback loop. This can dramatically impact the nature of the ensuing madness. Next tip: while there are plenty of excellent MIDI controllers out there to dynamically control different devices or parameters within your DAW, what I found +3 particularly useful for is controlling fixed parameters that you need access to frequently. For example, I'm working on mastering a recent performance and constantly want to flip back and forth between the original mix and the master to see if I'm actually making things better. This is the pre-master group and this is the post-master track. I've got the post-master set to mute and this is active so that when I solo this track, we won't hear the original mix. And then I MIDI map the solo button to +3's sustain side, and then gain control of one of the tracks. It could be a utility gain control. Here, to simplify things, I'll just map the overall level to the fader. Let's get out of MIDI mapping mode. And I've got Yulin's loudness meter to make sure that I'm comparing between the two at more or less the same loudness. So now the first thing I'm going to do is make sure the two are level matched. This is clearly not as loud as this one, so I can lower it down in level. I'm trying to reach, let's say, about 19 or 20 LUFS here. Not as the end target, just to see that levels are matched. So now they're at the same level. Takes a bit. And I can compare the two either momentarily or permanently to see which I like more. This is useful, I think, for either mastering or comparing to a reference track. Having a button that quickly toggles back and forth between two mixes helps a lot. The next tip is for cases where you might want the exact opposite. Rather than quickly control a fixed parameter, you want physical control of the last parameter you clicked in your DAW. In the original +3 video, I showed you the Cosell Max for Live device for Ableton Live, which does just that. Subsequently, Jeff Gibbons showed how to do the same thing in Cubase with a really nice twist. I'll link to his video below, but here's a little snippet.
I've set up a MIDI remote template. All I've done is assign value at mouse pointer to this fader. And then I've assigned value at mouse pointer in lock state to the button. And again, to learn how to set this up, watch the rest of the video. Once I've done that, watch what we can do with Loopop's neat little controller. So in any of the Steinberg virtual instruments, I can mouse over something like this level right here and just start moving. And this fader now controls the level. Mouse over the attack. And now it's changing the attack. I can do that basically to any control. If I go over to my mixer, I can just mouse over the mixer. And now I'm controlling this fader, now I'm controlling this fader, now I'm controlling this fader. I don't even need to click. All I have to do is mouse over it, all by using this one little fader. Pretty cool. Now it gets even cooler because, again, Nico showed me how to do this. If you mouse over something and then you move your mouse away, obviously you lose your connection to that little fader. But because we mapped this button here to value at mouse pointer in lock state, now when I mouse over something, so say this track volume, mouse over it, because remember these buttons are kind of connected. If I lock that in, look at that, I can move my mouse away, and now I can go do anything else, and my volume is locked to that little fader. It's kind of like we temporarily locked this fader to this one control. Let's clear that, so we let it go, and we put our fader over top of, say, the frequency. So now we're moving the frequency back and forth. We lock that in. I can... Doesn't matter where my mouse is. So there you go, Loop Hop, a totally different usage of this really cool little device that you've made up.
Thanks very much, Jeff. And moving on, Plus3 doesn't have a USB or MIDI output. So to get it to control MIDI devices, you need to pass it through a MIDI controller with expression and sustain jacks. We decided not to include MIDI directly in Plus3 because it would have increased costs and complexity. Plus, frankly, there are enough MIDI controllers out there of all shapes and sizes. However, if you did want to upgrade Plus3 with MIDI, a company called Dore MIDI makes an expression to MIDI converter called MPC-10, which costs about $40. I'll link to it below. I used this in a live performance setup because I wanted direct control for a specific parameter at all times, and I found it to be very reliable. The parameter in question was feedback for quad tape machines. So I needed to have that available at all times to make sure it doesn't get out of hand, or gets out of hand in just the right way. It has both a 3.5mm MIDI output or USB-C, which it also needs for power, but it can also send MIDI over USB-C. And it comes with a dongle to convert TRS MIDI to 5-pin DIN MIDI. It's got available configuration software you can download to set it up to send out CCs or even notes, as well as various other settings. Next tip is one we got from Dom Sigalas.
Something like this, like the piano colors from Native Instruments.
He found a bunch of creative ways to use it. I'll link to his video below. He also likes it specifically with the Control Mark III because the Control Mark III doesn't have any faders, and he also shows how to set things up on the MK3. One of his interesting tips is to make the mod wheel more accessible on 88-key keyboards.
I like the mode wheel on the S88 Mark III, but sometimes it's too far. So if I want to do like a simple mode wheel change, you know, I can just have this one right here and I can immediately play and control any controller that I want. At the same time, having a sustain pedal.
Moving on, in my original video, I recommended using Plus3 to explore the Sostenuto feature within your synth, a feature where you can drone certain notes and then play notes on top of them. But what if your synth doesn't support Sostenuto? Floyd Steinberg came up with a really neat trick to overcome this in multi-timbral synths.
Now I can press this switch here.
Use a high sustain value for the notes on the timbre you want Plus3 to hold.
Now we have endless sustain. And now I can just go here.
And then lower sustain all the way down to 0 on the other timbre.
And move the expression slider here.
You'll be limited to using attack decay envelopes for shaping your sound, but you'll still be able to strum along alongside a drone. More info in his video, I'll link to it below. Next tip, while Plus3 comes with rubber feet, its fader is designed with good resistance for smooth tracking, but depending on the surface, it might slip if you move it too aggressively. If you want to make sure it stays in place, you can remove the rubber feet it comes with and put double-sided tape on either end. Just make sure whatever you stick it on can handle the force of removing it. This tape has been here for a while, so it's not as sticky as it was when I originally added it, but still it helps hold things in place in case you want to get aggressive with your Plus3. Plus3 is made of hard aluminum, so we know it can handle it. Just make sure whatever you're sticking to won't get damaged by the double-sided tape. So that's it for this quick update about Plus3. You'll find all these tips and even more in its manual. Plus3 is available either directly from Endorphins or at many local synth stores. Thanks for watching.